Fuji lenses. When I made a video about this very expensive lens, the 50-140, about a month ago, apparently I confused a lot of people because I've done a lot of reviews and I've used and tested every current Fuji lens. And I mentioned months ago, people see a contradiction where no contradiction exists. This particular lens, the 55-200 Fuji, yes, I said, well, this is a Fuji's best telephoto lens. And a lot of people complained, unknowingly, not understanding, say, well, you just recently made a video about that really expensive 50-140 f2.8. This is basically the DX version of the 70-200. Said, well, you said this lens is incredible, and it is. Well, you know, just not so long ago, you said that that other lens, the 55-200, was Fuji's best telephoto lens. Herein is the fact that there's no contradiction. I'm not going to take this lens to Europe with me. I'm not going to take it on a trip if we're heading to Europe right now, which is exactly where I wished I was headed right now. I wish I was headed to Iceland or Norway. I'm not going to take this lens with me. This lens is incredible. That's not saying this is not appropriate for a travel lens. This is still Fuji's best telephoto lens. This is a specialty lens. Kind of like the 70-200, you know, if you're going to go somewhere, 70-300, f4.5 to 5.6, like the Nikkor, for example, you know, you don't need to bring along with you on a trip or travel or general purpose use a 300mm 2.8, which is a huge lens. You don't need a 70-200 2.8, which is a huge lens. So both are best for the criteria and purpose and design for which they are built. This lens is perfect for subject isolation, perfect for portraiture. Yes, I said portraiture because there is a huge difference, and people still don't realize this, oddly enough, between depth of field and subject isolation. It's like, well, great, you know, I got an f1.4 lens, I'm going to take a picture of Sally, and this much of her is going to be in focus. Like, well, isn't that special? Isn't that special? See, portrait photographers, that's wonderful. Fashion photographers and people doing specific stuff want a different sort of image rendition. And for example, like you're wearing somebody's dress, the model is, you're taking a shot, they're not interested in this depth of field. They're interested in actually seeing the dress and having the subject fully in focus from the tip of their nose to the back of their butt cheek. They want that in focus. The subject is isolated. Okay, f2.8 is more than exquisite enough at distance. You know, you're going to step back, say, I don't know, 30-40 yards, take a shot at 150 millimeters, 140 millimeters in this case, for example, which is, this lens is the equivalent of the 70-200 2.8 for DX for Fuji. So each one of these is perfect, is best, as far as in general, which is the best telephoto Fuji lens. Well, it is certainly so right here. The 55-200. Now you will notice if I actually zoom out to 200 millimeters, these lenses are actually basically the same size. Well, not in weight they're not, and not in girth, not in girth, not in girth. Too much caffeine this morning. Not in width they're not. Nevertheless, there's no optical vibration reduction on this particular lens. You see this? Optical image stabilization, it does exist on this lens. It also exists on this lens, excuse me, I was thinking about the other lens. Yes, both have optical image stabilization. Way too much caffeine. I will never go to bed again at 6 o'clock in the morning like I did last night. So forget about what I just said on that part. This is Fuji's best telephoto lens. Now, if you'd ask me, say, what is the best telephoto lens for portraiture? I would say this lens. This is not the best lens for telephoto portraiture. What is the best lens for subject isolation at distance if I'm going to do portraiture? I say it's this lens. Which is the best lens if I'm going to go out trekking, or if I'm going to take a trip, or if I'm going to go, you know, take some decent daylight shots of whatever. It's right here. So both of these are the perfect telephoto Fuji lens. There is no contradiction in calling this lens wonderful, and you know, people complain, well, you know, just a couple months ago you said the 55-200 is the best one. Now you're saying that this lens is the best of the two. It's like, no, there's no inherent contradiction there. I don't know why people see that. I see where the confusion comes from, but there's no contradiction and there's no backpedaling in referring to both of these. I mean, I got this lens on sale. I knew I wanted to buy it. It was one of the last lenses that I knew I wanted to buy. I don't particularly need the lens because I have 70 to 200 covered in full frame, and I have it covered specifically many times over for Nikon. So it was not a high concern of mine to purchase it, even though I had tried it. And was it worth it at the $300 off that I got it? And yeah, and I waited for it to go $300 off, and I bought it. It's still an expensive lens. I think it's $1,700 right now. But you know, for the cost of this lens, I'd rather have a used one of these and a few other lenses. I mean, we're talking about, you know, are you going to get your money's worth out of it? I mean, are you fashion or portraiture fashion or portraiture photographer? No. Do you really need this lens? Probably not. So this is still Fuji's best telephoto lens. So I hope I cleared up that seeming confusion or seeming contradiction, which in fact is not a contradiction. Thank you for watching, and let me know if you have any questions on anything. I like being helpful. I need to be as objective as possible, not subjective. You know, I don't want to state out, like, you got to buy this lens, period. So, well, that's a subjective statement. Anytime somebody asks me something, they say, you know, what are you going to use it for? What is your budget? You know, you just can't say, what's the best lens? Like, well, I don't know. You know, what's your budget? What are you going to be shooting mostly? You know, if someone says I'm going to be shooting macro, you know, that's a different type of 100mm lens, and the person says, I'm going to be shooting portraiture. Well, well, you can also use that same lens for portraiture, but a more idealized lens for portraiture would be a different type of 100mm. So if someone says, what's the best 100mm? You know, you can't answer that question. It's like, well, why not? You know, are you shooting bugs or are you shooting people? You know, interestingly enough, the same lens you can shoot bugs with is the same lens you can shoot people with for portraiture, but it is not the ideal lens for same because of, you know, the better lens for that was like the 105 f2 DC Nikkor. But anyway, I digress, as I often usually do. Thanks for watching, and hello out there. Yeah, I still got my Fuji X100T sitting on the table here. I was out shooting with it early this morning. Catch you all later. Bye.